Sorry. So yes, I'm actually working half and half at the moment with learning tech and with learning design. And my colleagues in LLB, who are actually designing and delivering the course for the online campus, Jen, Jazz and Richard, they might come to legend at some point, but unfortunately couldn't be here today. So they said, well, we want to have an escape room mainly as a social activity for our first year LLBs. And we were originally planning to do it at the sort of in about the third week of September. But unfortunately, with the timing of the Queen's funeral and other things, we've put that back. So what I'll be showing you today is another draft version. And the next plan is to run it at the beginning of January instead. So what I did, because I've got a learning design hat on, I had a look around at some gaming design frameworks before meeting the LLB team to do a design sprint. And the one I found, which I will stick a link, I'll stick links in the chat, in fact, just towards the end of this, so you can see it. It's called Room to Educate. And it's Panagiotis Vataris at University of Brighton. He actually teaches game design and some other bits and pieces. So what I did was took all the headings in his framework, and then I created it all on a mural board. So he's sort of got, I've shrunk some of the sections, but this is what we did. We all got together, and you'll see one on here that also says economics. I actually had a visiting lecturer from economics who wanted to have a think about an escape room too, but the main ones were for LLB. So we tried to map it all out, and it was just really an initial brainstorming session to try and think, what are all the different elements that we need to include in an escape room? So this is what we thought about. And the nice thing with Mural is, I don't know if you've used it before, but you can add images and things. So where we were trying to describe things, and we were originally thinking, should we have it in a courtroom? Should we have it in a police station? All those kind of things. People were finding different images. So the key one that we probably spent the most time on was this green one: environment, theme, narrative, and characters. And then we started to think about the types of design and what the different things were that we thought we might want. The structure and complexity, we decided we didn't want it too easy, and we didn't want any particular levels of complexity because it's a social activity, this particular one, and we weren't assessing anything at all. So that's where we went with that. We thought we'd need some hints. And then the ones which we didn't really get round to doing in the initial session were some of the more organisational bits. So that's what we tried to do. And then I'm just going to switch to the review version, so you can actually see the live draft at the moment and hopefully have a bit of a play. I just open this up. So we built it all in Storyline, and I'll show you the back end of that in a second, but I'll just show you for now what it currently looks like as if you were a student.
Attention LLB students. Your time will begin as soon as you press start on the next screen. There are 9 puzzles you need to solve. Each puzzle unlocks a number for a student ID. Don't forget to make a note of each number. When you have all of them, an ID box will appear. Type them into the box to escape.
And I should say, the narrative was written by one of my colleagues also in a digital learning role, who's written narrative for films, so we were very lucky to have that chance. I'm not an expert, complete expert, so. And you can see on the bottom left, I managed to insert a timer. That was the hardest thing to find.
Greetings.
Actually.
I'm Dan Ominous. Yes, that is my real name. My parents were weird. By the way, do you like my mask? Some might say it's a bit cliché, but I think it makes me look rather cool. Thanks for agreeing with me. Don't you just love dark patterns? What's a dark pattern, you ask? Dark patterns are deceptive interactions, designed to mislead or trick users to make them do something they don't want to do. But I prefer to believe you think my mask looks cool. Anyway, I digress. You probably shouldn't have clicked on that suspicious-looking link because you've just unleashed a virus onto the University of Law's IT system, the likes of which has never been seen before. And unless you've got $5 million on hand to pay the ransom, the virus will take over within 60 minutes. That wasn't a very lawyer-y thing to do, was it? Luckily for you, There is an escape code that will allow you to avoid the ransom and destroy the virus, in the form of a 9-digit candidate ID. Unluckily for you, this ID can only be obtained by completing a series of 9 tasks that you'll have to decipher within 60 minutes. Every time you complete a task successfully, you'll receive 1 digit from the code. Get it wrong, and, well, let's just hope you like taking orders from robots. So from now on, you better start engaging the logical part of your brain, and maybe not the part that clicks on phishing links. Brace yourselves. Let the puzzles begin. If you're half as good with words as me, you'll get this first puzzle in minutes. Drag and drop the letters below to form a 6-letter anagram from the word judgment.
Any suggestions? Anyone got any ideas for judgment? I'll put it in for you. It's nutmeg. So all of the puzzles are a bit like this. They're all anagrams or fill in a blank type one as puzzles. And a hint appears, but what we've done in our storyline, and when I show you the back end of it, it doesn't always appear at first. So say for this one, we don't even give a hint at all.
Nutmeg was indeed the answer. Beyond a seasonable doubt. The next challenge will require some mathematics.
And I'll just stop that for a second. So that's sort of how it goes on, and they work their way through 9. And we're waiting for student feedback because we're not sure at this point if they're too easy or not. But that's sort of what it looks like. And behind the scenes in Articulate Storyline, and if anyone wants, I can share the whole thing. So if you have Storyline on your computer or about to get it, I can send you this as a package after the session today, if that's helpful. So I will just reshare and go to. So this is what Articulate looks like. And if you haven't seen it before, when you first come in, you create everything in what's called scenes. And then you put these all in here. And we've actually got a lot, which is why they look quite small. But what I found was I put the puzzles in a separate scene and then kept linking them back. And then we went from one thing to the other. Because the counting tool, so let's find one that's got the counter on it. I think this one has. It's actually hidden in something called Slide Master. So a bit like PowerPoint, if you've used a Slide Master in PowerPoint, this is where I've stuck something, and I got it from the web. I was searching online for a couple of days actually and couldn't find anything that quite worked. But then I found if I had a blank one, and I can explain this to you, there's another link as well. This managed to work, but then what I had to make sure was that every slide had it, otherwise the counter kept stopping when you went on to the next puzzle and started again. And then what you do is everything appears, so you can just drag things, you can insert different things like pictures, videos, or whatever you need on here. So it's a bit like a sort of PowerPoint. And then I grouped the puzzles and found different bits of free sound and then pulled those all in. And then eventually what we did at the end, I think on the last one, they have to enter the code, which they should have hopefully written down by seeing these purple ones with the numbers on before. Then they enter it in, and at that point, the counter stops here. So it would then record it, and we're putting it inside our Blackboard VLE. And then there's no way for us to sort of automatically record, but we could see in the back end who's done it and at what time. So we thought, well, we'll organise everyone in groups behind the scenes beforehand and maybe in Collaborate and get themselves into teams, ask them to nominate a rep, and then we will follow that rep once they log into our elite Blackboard system. And because you can put storyline packages in there and just see what time they finished, and then we've allocated them, or we will allocate them digital badges. So that's sort of how it looks. Has anyone got any questions at all so far? If I go back to the actual one itself. Anyone want to know any more?
That's really great, Nicola. Craig, are you there, or has the storm hit? Do I need to
No, I'm here.
You're
I'm
good.
here. Yeah, no, don't worry. I'm
Just
here.
for those who have come in later, there's a storm down in Exeter, so we're just making sure that Craig can pop up or not.
No, I'm here.
Right, has anyone got any questions before I move on to the second one that we've started to do in Rise? Got any questions?
Oh yeah, we have a question here from Katarina.
Yes, hello. This looks really amazing so far, but I have one question. Does the game have a warning for the loud sounds that are put into it? Because they can be quite scary.
Yes. Yes, we were putting that in the brief at the beginning. So we were planning to send out a separate brief in advance and let people know that there's. We also struggle because with the online ones and storyline, it's very difficult to make something dramatic without making a lot of flashing appear. So we're putting a warning in at that as well for a little bit. There's a little bit of flickering because we wanted to make it look virusy without making it, like you say, affecting anyone who could be triggered by different types of light. So yeah, we'd include all that in the brief at the beginning before. And
I think we've also got a hand up here from Richard.
Hello, thanks very much, Nicola. It looks really interesting. I've not used Storyline before. I'm just interested kind of how you were describing, adding in things like the timer in the bottom left. Was there anything else kind of that you really wanted to achieve with the technology, but found that you couldn't? Were there any kind of features that you wanted to see but struggled with?
I think there probably would be for a different type of one. I think because I knew Storyline when we first went into our design session, I kind of knew the limitations. So we knew we couldn't do anything with different bits of web code and make lots of things more interactive. And part of the reason we chose word puzzles was because they're actually built-in quiz templates already in Articulate, so we didn't have to modify them too much, just tweak some of the bits to them. But yes, there's some limitations in terms of the types of puzzles you could do, and you'd probably need a separate designer if you wanted to make them a bit more interactive. But essentially in Articulate, for the types of puzzles or quiz questions, you're either typing something or you're drag and dropping something. Occasionally you're labeling an image, but that's pretty much all you can do with the basic core functionality. So there's definitely some limitations around that. And what we're not sure at this point is, because it's so sequential in a way, seeing it as an online experience, how teams will actually, students in teams are actually going to react to that. So that will be interesting to see how competitive they actually feel, or how, because what we're not sure, and I suppose you've all thought about this yourself, is ultimately with an escape room online, you're not really trapped, because you can disconnect from the internet, you can close down your web browser. So it's not quite the same feeling. Whereas what we'd like to do for a second phase, once we feel like in Uni of Law, because this is our first attempt at an escape room, is maybe sometime next year we've had a mini session to look at, can we make some of it in virtual reality, like University of Lancaster, was it University of Lancaster or University of Central Lancs, I think they did, and have a hybrid or have a fully immersive one in VR. But for the campus, for the time being, it would be interesting to see, do the students feel this was fun? Is it something they'd like to see more of actually in their learning as well? But yeah, there are some definite, that was it, yeah. There definitely are some limitations with that.
Got it, thank you.
Any other questions? Because the other one I'm going to show you has got even more limitations, but it was authored in another part of the Articulate world, which is called Articulate Rise. And I just flip back to here. So this is what I've started to do. It's for our posts, our PGCHE, and it's literally just almost in some ways like a glorified quiz. So they go through, we haven't got a full narrative yet, but the idea is happens. And then they see their brief. And at the moment, we haven't got any sort of narrative in between. So I'll get this one right so you can see. She says, hopefully. No, I didn't get it right. Okay. and then you sort of work your way through. There are something called branching scenarios in Articulate. I have managed to stop it so that you can't automatically go on. And I've put a mini navigation aid here, but you have to have completed the challenges in order for it to actually work. So you can go back, because I realised with this one in Rise, is they could go through, get all their code numbers, but if they've forgotten one, there was no way to go back. So I've had to include a mini menu, which I've done as a compact one, which is a setting in Rise itself. And then they can go back if they've forgotten any of the things. But you can see on this one, there's it's a lot of just scrolling down, and you need to have a really good narrative. So I just thought I'd show you as well. This is something that somebody's done externally as a story, but it's very similar in a way, but it's much prettier. And he's got an abduction story, and you go through is your mission. And I think there's questions along the way. So again, a bit like Storyline, there these kind of, it was that river, and so on, and it takes you through, and this one allows free navigation. So they're quite nice, but again, we're not sure quite how our students will react, whether they'll find that just a nice thing to do, how much of the sense of adventure is in it, how much in terms of emotions are actually sort of developed. I don't know at this point. So that's our 2 attempts at the moment, and it's very early stages for us. But if anyone does want to know anything, I'll stick all the links in there. And if anyone does want a copy of what we've done, you can import it into Storyline. So just do let me know. I can share it afterwards with Steve and then Craig.